Our safety isn't as dramatic as what you see on a production builder's site. Ours is more tool related, how you can get hurt by using these tools and their equipment. I jotted down a bunch of quick notes. They're all over the place, but they hit home. I mentioned about carrying material. Nobody should be carrying any material above hip height. Variety of reasons. One, you don't want to run into someone and hurt them. You want to know where you're going so you don't trip and fall. Injuries happen that way. Many times people will pick up something they shouldn't when they need two people, they're only using one. Trevor and I and a couple other people will be trying to police that along the way. If people in the volunteer group see anything like that happening, they really should be coming to Trevor or I for us to address it. Don't get involved in it. Let us take care of it. Lifting. A lot of times you see people lifting with their back instead of legs and back. Injuries again from picking up things that are just too heavy for them. And we will have that at the site, especially on the masonry side, some of the other materials that are coming in. Step ladders. We're trying to keep our step ladders at 8 feet because our ceiling height is at 9, and I really don't want to see anybody standing on a step higher than the second step from the top. If they're on the third step from the top, they can rest their knees against the ladder to balance themselves. We're bringing in scaffolding. Scaffolding will have fall protection. I don't want to go into the code behind it. It'll take me a half hour just to talk about that. But it is not flimsy type scaffolding. We addressed that. Steve was at my garage Sunday afternoon with Mike Darcy. We talked about the scaffolding that is sold by some of the chains. We will not use that. Ours will be coming in all likelihood from rental companies. I cash in favors as I go through my younger years. Taylor Rental I'll mention. Why? Because I helped them with the scouts up at Yards Creek. He now helps me. So when I need a piece of equipment for a volunteer group, club, or organization, I get it for free. Extension ladders. We will be using them, not a lot. We do have to get up 14 feet into some areas of the portions of the roof in order to frame out for the Versa lifts. Extension ladders are very simple. When you set an extension ladder up and you put your feet against the feet of the ladder, you should be able to put your hands straight out and touch the ladder. If you don't, it's at the wrong angle. If your hands protrude past it, it's at the wrong angle. So I will have people setting up extension ladders and checking that before someone goes up on it. A lot of tradesmen think they know all of this. They don't. Unless they had 8 and 30 hour, they're not going to know this. Extension cords. The electrician shows up Thursday morning to go over what's called GFI protection, ground fault interrupt outlets. Any power tool, whether you know it or not, will be on a GFI outlet. Ground fault. You can't get shocked by it. It shuts off in 1/6000th of a second. You'll see heavy gauge extension cords coming out of every wall in every unit. They'll have a number on them, 5, whatever it is. That number indicates what breaker in the panel controls that box for when too much load goes onto it and trips a breaker. So all one has to do is follow the line back to the box, hit the breaker. If it still doesn't go on, then I need to know about that, because it's probably just simply a GFI that tripped or went bad. We have backup GFIs already on tool committee. You don't see it, but they're there. We'll be running splitters off of those 4 gang boxes. That's 4 outlets. Instead of seeing just 2, there's 4. And then we attach a splitter to it so we can get more power on it. However, that power has to be fanned out. I can't run, for example, what's called 2 sawzalls and a chop saw. I've got 45 amps of power right there. I'm on a 20 amp breaker, it's going to keep breaking all day. So I have to disperse cords onto different circuits, which I'll know by Thursday where they are. The cords cannot be removed from the walls. They need to stay there overnight. I'll even take spray paint and I'll paint a line on the floor in bright yellow. So you know that cord is there, because the cord is black and there's going to be dust, dirt, debris. I want you to be able to see where the main cord is. I'm not worried about the lighter gauge cords, the 12 gauge or the 14 gauge cords, but the big ones we carry, the 10-3s, they're the ones I'm worried about. Just don't want to see anybody trip. Hard hats. Hard hats are required when there is imminent overhead danger. What is that? If you're working in a building and somebody is putting a roof up outside, like we will be doing, hard hats have to be worn. Ironically, when we did the Parish Center at Immaculate Conception, good old Ken walked outside the door when we were doing the roof, and Mike Darcy just happened to throw a shingle off and hit me in the head. So it happened to me too. The mechanical people, Myers and Depew, are coming in either Friday or Monday. They're going to be working up in the air, replacing all of the units ahead of time. All the mechanicals are coming out. They're 20 to 25 years old. We can't get the parts for them anymore. The units are starved for air. If you got past this year, you would be lucky. So the decision was made, change them out now. So I will cordon off an area with caution tape if anybody comes into the building to keep them away from them. Why? They'll have a scissor lift taking their unit up into the air, and they'll be working off of ladders, step ladders, extension ladders. The ductwork that exists in the ceiling was not run properly. It lays on top of all of the grid work along with electric. That alone is a hazard. It's an electrical hazard. Somebody can get killed by simply having a live line, which I've seen there, laying on top of that grid work. The electrician is going to try to get to that before the 30th and 31st to make sure we're safe above the ceiling line. We'll take out as much ceiling tile as we can on the 17th so the electrician can get a look at it and see what's up in there. What I'd like to do is have as many of the volunteers bring their own safety glasses, safety goggles, hard hats, work gloves, and if they are on a team that's going to be doing tile work, latex gloves. It's their own. Instead of sharing, keep your own with you. The difference between the goggles and the glasses are for a specific reason. When you're working with the ceiling tiles, there's fiberglass in it, dust particles. That's where you wear goggles to stay tight to your face. And believe it or not, this is Trevor Wilson.
Hi, everyone.
TCW Builders. We will bring towels on a job site if we're working ceiling tiles like we just did up in Washington. You just simply don't take the goggles off. You don't realize it, how much particle dust is caught in your hair. If you take those goggles off, you will get that dust in your eyes. The thing that we do is actually take a towel, bend over, brush it off of us, and walk backwards away from it. Take the goggles, pull them down off of us and over us. Keep walking backwards. That stuff is terrible. I don't think we have any insulation in it. We don't know until we start opening up walls, but it's the same theory. That's what the goggles are for. The glasses are for just simple eye protection. Don't think because you're not using a power tool like a framing gun that you can't get hit by a nail. There are misfires. There are jams in guns. And you can just be an innocent bystander and get hit with a 12-penny nail coming out at 60 miles an hour. I have a picture of a gentleman, I should have brought it, but years and years and years ago, through 3 fingers is a 12-penny nail and not a drop of blood coming out of it. Just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Listen for backup horns. We will be pulling in, we know for sure, one Kubota backhoe, possibly a Bobcat. We want to use that equipment in order to take the heavy load off of the volunteers and quicken up the process. The mason is coming in right now it's Sunday is when he's coming in. He is attacking those 4 walls, taking them down with as best I know, a gasoline-driven, water-cooled chainsaw. Just bought it for this project. It's going to be a mess in there. And I told him what I wanted him to do in order to save money was leave his drops on the ground for the volunteers to take out. Trevor and I probably have 50 to 100 buckets. Wheelbarrows are coming. So we will move that debris off into a bobcat or a backhoe out in the street for the bobcat or the backhoe to put it into a masonry dumpster. We do a masonry dumpster because it's cheaper that way. That's the only product that goes in it. We'll have another dumpster there for general debris, construction debris. When debris comes down from a ceiling, and we're taking down a lot of lumber from the ceiling, walls are coming down, it's everyone's job to look to see if there are nails sticking up. Every nail gets bent over before it gets picked up. If you see someone who's not doing that, Trevor and I need to know that. That's how people get nails in their feet. Did they have a tetanus shot? Don't know. So we'll be watching for that as well. But these pieces of equipment have to have operating backup horns. Once the vehicle is put into reverse, you hear that god-awful tone. Stay away from it. We'll try to get walkers. Walkers are much like what you see at Lowe's and Depot, people walking with a red flag, guiding that person back and away from people, stopping people.